How's it going, everyone? Well, as you can tell, this is a Steyr AUG, or Steyr Aug for some people. The correct pronunciation is actually AUG, but since we're here in the US, a lot of people, we use acronyms, so most people are familiar with this being called the AUG. Well, this particular one is a A3M1 variant in a traditional non-NATO or European style, which only takes the Steyr mags, which are in the waffle design. We're going to be doing with this particular rifle today is a conversion from the flat top configuration, this long rail, into a 3-power optics variant. And we're also going to put some upgrade parts, or just more some personal touches, not so much an upgrade. Depends on how and the way you think. But the parts we're going to be installing are from Corvus-defensio, which is a larger and wider mag release here in the butt plate. And we're also going to be installing the shell deflector on the right hand side. Well, the simple and easiest way to break this down and to go through it to get ready for installing all the new parts is to completely dismantle the rifle, and that's what we're going to do next. So as we can start off, you can tell we don't have a magazine in. I'm going to give a quick warning to anyone that has one or is going to be looking for one. As you can tell, the top of my hand here, my knuckle is cut. It's due to the Picatinny rail and not paying attention and not even heeding my own advice. So, listen to me, take my advice, so you don't end up with a broke knuckle or cut knuckle. The particular with the flat top Picatinny rail and the charge handle, do because it can actually rotate in, and out of not thinking, you'll actually reach up and grab it with just the tip of the first joint of your finger, and you'll rotate in and go to rack this back. And as soon as you do, you're going to catch your flip-up sights or your optic mount, a nut that hangs off that where it attaches to the Picatinny rail, or you're just going to run your hand right down the Picatinny rail. So to avoid that, reach up with the far middle joint of your finger just to the tip, and when you pull for the charge handle in one motion, do not do this slow, don't try to creep it in there. You're just going to rack it back and lock it. So in one motion, grab on the high side and do not rotate in. You kind of need to pull down and to the back, or down and back, to make it the easiest way. So just with the top of your hand like this, don't grab into it, just run it up to your hand, back, and it'll lock in. If you go slow like I just demonstrated in the front, it will not lock. The charge handle will hit your hand, or if you're trying to finagle it, you're going to run your knuckle and split it. These rails can be sharp depending on how fast you do this, or if you're not protected in gloves, you're going to tear your gloves. So with that being done, I'll give you a word of advice. Now you can check in the back of the receiver. You can see that we're unloaded, so it's safe. And we're going to start the teardown process. The way I like to show people on how this is done is once you've locked this back, we're going to take the barrel out. In the front, you'll actually see the little nubble to release the barrel. It pushes in and down, and the barrel will rotate up. And it actually is somewhat spring assisted. It will slightly pop forward about half to a quarter inch, and then your barrel will remove. From this point on, it can be done either way, but the way I like to do it is to slowly release your bolt, take the spring pressure off the rails on the inside for when you're going to remove your receiver. So gently pull down and guide it forward, do not let go. You'll feel it lock in, and from this point forward, it'll be easy to pull and separate the stock from the receiver. Charge handle side, we're going to push in the lock that holds the receiver to the stock. Push it in as far as you can. Some people with smaller hands, you can actually push it all the way. If you've got large fingers, you just need to push it in about 1/4 of an inch. Keep your hand on the front of the receiver. And on the back side, you're actually going to see there's a cavity for your finger to go into. Once you pull this, you're going to release, and there is some spring tension. Don't be afraid. The receiver and the stock will try to separate. That's the reason for keeping your hand here in the front and kind of holding on to it. So with that up, it doesn't take a whole lot of pressure. You can normally on a flat table, or you can put this into your leg. Pull, this will come to the first click, and then as you can see, the receiver is going to go forward about 2 inches on the springs. It comes out, and now all the tension is off. You can remove your hand. Just hold here in the grip, slide forward on your rails. Your bolt carrier and your receiver will all come out as a single unit. This can be set off to the side. You can remove your bolt carrier group and the rail assembly and set that off. And now your whole receiver, your charge handle is attached and is inside. And now you don't have to worry about it falling out or going anywhere. We'll set this off to the side. Some other work I'll be doing with this one today is actually adjusting your trigger bars, which is here on the inside. Due to bullpup design, there is a trigger bar system that runs here from your trigger, which is latched here in the front, runs all the way to the rear of the receiver back to your trigger pack assembly. And I'll show you how to take that out now. On the back side of the rifle, in the butt plate, you're going to see this divot. You're going to need to push in and then pull on your sling mount until you can fully pull it out. There's the key. It's all attached. At the top side of the butt plate, you can normally grab it here. There is a little lip edge on the bottom that latches into the stock. So pull that out. And then you're going to see this little tail sticking out of the back. Get a better camera angle here, guys. Just grab it, pull out, and then there is your AUG trigger pack. Alright, now we're going to install the Corvus-defensio case deflector first. So, depending on which side of the rifle you would like, the case deflector is left and right-handed. There is one for the right and one for the left due to angle of how it's going to work. This particular rifle is set up for a right-handed shooter. So we're going to rotate this around. Here's your Corvus-defensio case deflector. When you get this, you're going to need 2 tools. First, you're going to need a little bit of Loctite, or what I like to use is a little bit of clear fingernail polish or hardener. So I prefer this sometimes on the finer screws that I do wish to take out later. If you do use Loctite, depending on which one you're going to use, it's going to be a heat or a mild. I would not recommend using a very strong Loctite, just something to snug it up. That's kind of more why I like using just a little bit of clear nail polish. You are also going to need a star bit. Nothing giant. I believe this one here is a T8, if I can see it on here. So this is just my Real Avid punch kit and tool kit. So just a basic tool. You can actually do this with a Star Allen if you'd like. Here on the case deflector, it's very simple. It's actually 2 pieces. It's machined. So what you're going to do is you're going to need to back out the 2 set screws. There's lip edges on each of these. You're going to insert the front one. Sorry, here. Actually, you can put it all together at the same time. Okay, guys. The easiest way to do this is together. Push it all the way in. You're going to insert to the rear first, which is the large part. Drop it in. And then you're going to slide it forward just a hair to hold it. At this point, I'm not going to put the Loctite just because I'm filming this, but this is when you would put on your Loctite or adhesive, and then run your set screw up to a snug point on each side first, on the right or left. Be sure not to over tighten this. This is aluminum. You just need to snug it up and then let dry. And then that will be your case deflector installed. All right, now that you've put your Loctite on and you've set your set screws and let it dry, you'll be good to go. When you go to install your receiver, you need to be very careful the first time installing due to the wings being inside, that you do not just slam the receiver in. It is actually stated in the Corvo's defense in the manual. When you receive your case deflector, we'll pull this one out. You guys will have to screenshot or pause the video if you wish to read it entirely. The next thing we're going to do is install this new mag release button. The button here is a little bit wider. It has some textured grooves onto it, and is actually known by Corvo as it has a butterfly effect. It is a wide body with 2 wings, and the wings are curved. So there's the new release button, and they also give you a new spring roll pin. So there's the pin. What you'll need for this is a flat blade screwdriver. In this particular kit, it is a 7/32 flathead, but a good number 2 flathead. Just make sure when you work with these screws that you do not put a small one in or one that doesn't truly fit. You don't want to strip one out. So when you go to pull out this button, you'll need to push it down and unscrew. On the opposite side, there is a little nut, so make sure you don't lose it. Right, now that you have the little nut pulled out and put away, the easiest way for this now to come apart, the factory one has a little bit of Loctite or glue to it. A punch, this here is a 1/8 punch, will work very well. This might take a small hammer, so your armorer's hammer will come in very handy. You can use the little brass hammer, a small ball peen, like a jeweler size. You don't need anything very large, but just be aware there might be a little bit of glue on this. To pull this out, remember there is a spring in here, so you're pushing against it, and the screw's set. So, with a little bit of pressure here at the front edge, for the alignment, you'll feel it. You just need to push on the screw head itself. You'll actually see it that went in and started to come out. Unless you've got stronger fingers than mine, you won't be able to grab this and pull it. This is where the hammer may come in. So, hopefully guys, on doing this on camera and keep everything aligned for you, you need to push on the factory mag release here in the buff spot that doesn't have texture. You need to kind of push in right there with your thumb, and you'll have to try get this lined up. You'll drive out the actual bolt. Now this will take you a minute if it's the first time. This is where the hammer comes in. Makes it a lot easier. Just kind of hold the mag button and tap. This one just took a couple. There is your bolt. Remember, keep a little tension on this. Pull out your punch. The mag release button's going to fall inside. That's fine. With it up, all I need to do is reach in and pull it out. Your spring is held inside. Now, keep in mind when you pull out your spring, or come back to this video when you're doing it, remember that the long tail end of the spring goes into the receiver, and the short tail hook goes into the mag button. So, put your spring off to the side, you're going to reuse it. there's your factory mag release. Put it off to the side. Alright, now with your Corvus Defense extended button, what you're going to need to do is grab it, your spring, and the little roll pin that they sent you. This will be key. If not, you're going to fight this, and it will not be enjoyable to try to put this all back together the first time. It will take you a while. So, insert your spring. The little roll pin will set inside. A little bit of lubricant or a little bit of oil on there will work just fine. Like I said, the long end goes out, the short tail goes in. Now when you go to reinsert this, there's this rear flange hook. This is actually right here going to go back up inside the receiver. This is what stops the mag from popping, the mag release button popping all the way out. That's the actual catch. So if you go to install this and it's way too easy, it's because you didn't put the catch all the way in the back side, and then it's basically going to look like this, and that's incorrect. It's not what you're looking for. So you're going to need your punch again, clean up your threads, your nut. You're going to insert that in the back edge, and hopefully you're very ambidextrous to make this work. Once you have the rear hooked in, you can use your thumb. And guys, on camera this is not going to be very pretty. You're not going to be able to see all the little alignment. But basically, here at your bolt, to reinsert your bolt, you're going to use the punch, or if you want to, you can use the bolt. Either way, start on the proper side. Like I said, on camera this is not going to look a whole lot pretty because I have to be able to get my face into it to see it. You're going to have to look down the hole, and you're looking for the pin to push it through. So you'll have to bear with me for 1 second. I'll show you the completed project here in just a moment. But all we're going to do is push this, or you can use your punch pin if you wanted to push it out to stabilize it, to do an extra step, whichever one works easier for you. Alright, once you get it lined up, you can use the hammer and gently tap down. Now, guys, I do this and I really don't like to do a lot of editing, so if you bared with me and you watch me flip this back and forth without fast forwarding the video, that's actually started to pin in. The roll pin is actually going to come out the opposite side. And now you need is just to push it all the way through. It'll start, and then reinsert your nut with your flat blade and just tighten her up snug. We're actually going to push this one back out just a little bit. The reason I'm doing this is so we can actually just flush the nut into the actual channel, because it has existing grooves that it's self-locking. There's no way to get a wrench on this. It's actually the polymer of the stock that grabs it. So I just pushed it back down a little bit, dropped the screw back in. I'll put my finger over it, and then with the flat blade, I'll tighten her up. You can put a little bit of Loctite on this, or the glue, just like you did here with your rail. Tighten it up snugly. Once it actually gets tight, guys, not a lot of force. I'm using 2 fingers, or actually 3, just to rotate this. Once it's there, no more than a 1/16 of a turn. So if you're at 12 o'clock position, when this is tight, or find a 12, make a 12 o'clock position. So let's do this. We'll call this 12 o'clock. Once you've got it snug with just your 3 fingers, we're going to rotate to 1 o'clock. That is tight as it needs to be. And there's your button. Now, I have a magazine here. I'll show you. Big 42. That's inside. Now you can see how much wider this button is for mag release than the factory one. So you'll have no problem when you're under this, and I'll take some extra pictures of actually getting your thumb to pull the magazine. So that's all installed. Now, one final thing that I'm going to do to this particular rifle is not an extra part or anything, it's just strictly for aesthetics. It's something that I've been wanting to do. So, keep your little roll pin, clean up your table, put your tools away. From this point out, you will not need any tools. It is strictly a field strip and reassembly. Thank you guys for watching. You can see what I'm going to do here, and I'm actually going to speed the video up on the reassembly, and there'll be some still frames and after shots. So thank you for watching and subscribing to the channel, and there'll be more to come later. Haha, you guys thought I forgot about doing the optic. That's what you were looking for. Nah, just do something a little bit different, guys. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to take this flat rail, long rail off, and we're going to install the new 3-power optic. So that's what we're going to do next. So let me move some tools on the table, and we'll get into this. Well, we're going to get into putting on this optic. First, we're going to take off the CQP quick release mount. We're going to get this as bare as possible. Now, with this portion of the video, this is going to be the ending of what you saw for doing the Corvus defense work. Now we're going to be changing out this upper. I want to make it very, very clear, and I do not know everyone's skill level, so I'm going to give you a fair and as clear as possible warning of what I'm going to do next. When removing your receiver and changing out one of these rail optics, from the rail, short or long, or to the optics itself. As you can see, this is all aluminum that's pre-tapped and dyed. So is this receiver. If you do this wrong, you will destroy your receiver, and you will be out about $2,000 if you do this incorrectly, because the receiver for the most part will not be able to be fixed, and you will have to buy a new one, which is basically buy a new AUG. So this is not for your standard person to do. I would very much recommend that you're an armorer or someone willing to take the risk of if you damage something. A lot of my videos, I try not to get into too much of the armory details. I like to keep things for the average person. But going forward with this, if you mess it up, you will destroy, or you will have destroyed your receiver and your AUG. So you have been warned. Send this and let a professional do this. If you wish to do this on your own, you're doing it at your own risk, and I'm not responsible, it's your fault. Okay, what you're going to need first and foremost is in the receiver, when these are assembled at the factory, they are a blue and purple Loctite. They are a high temperature, high stress Loctite. You will need to get a soldering iron or a very, very small tipped solder blowgun. There are 3 screws inside your receiver. 2 are visible towards the front here, and 1 is buried inside in the back side of the receiver. get these here on camera to show you. You are going to have to heat these up. Now, when I say that I know what I'm doing and have been through it, most people know I am a Steyr armorer. I've taken the course, I've helped with the programs, I've gone through them, and I stay up to date repeatedly. I'm also, for the armorers course in the United States, armorer number 1 on pistols and AUGs. So when I speak on this, I speak from experience, and I have the educational background to it. So, with that being said, you're going to need to warm these up. The book calls for until you slightly see smoke from the Loctite being burned out. Remember, this is aluminum. Aluminum melts very, very fast, right around 450 degrees to 500 degrees. This is coated, so you've got a little bit more protection than that, but do not go extreme. I like to use a soldering tip, go inside, insert it, and warm these up. Now, this one I did warm prior to what I'm about to do, just so it was easier on camera. I didn't think you guys wanted to sit around and watch me warm up each one of these for a few minutes and then break them loose. So, 1/4 inch ratchet with a 1/4 drive bit. You're going to need a hex key. This one here is a V4 for the size. You can insert it in your drive. Remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty, and then you can unscrew these. Now, I got this broke loose to cool it down for the table so I could get these out and not burn my hands. Once you start warming this up, that Loctite's going to come out. The receiver is going to be very hot, so do not burn yourself. There's one. These screws, make sure that you get a proper seat on the head. If you strip one out, I know they have been fixed if you were to strip one, but basically it has to go back to Steyr, and you will have to get one of their armorers and pay them to mill it, or you'll have to take it to your local gunsmith, and it will not be cheap for trying to salvage your receiver of getting out that stripped bolt. Don't worry if one comes loose inside, you can kind of jiggle it out. We're gonna get this one here out. Got stuck. They'll come right out. This third one, this is the one that everyone has problems with because you can't really get in here very well. Tool afterwards. This is the reason I say to use a soldering gun tip. It's because you can actually reach inside. You're not trying to put a blowtorch head or anything in there. But it is extremely tight, as you can see, to get in. Once that's been removed, your actual one will come right off. So there's your top long rail. We'll shake out the screw. It is not necessary to replace these every time that you do this, because this is not something that you're standardly going to be removing from an optic to a flat top. It's pretty much you'll buy a flat top and want an optic, or you'll have an optic and want the flat top. You'll set your gun up the first time. I would recommend, for some reason, if you interchange this repeatedly, I would order new screws. You can get them from Steyr themselves, or I'm sure you can go to your local hardware store, maybe not a hardware store, maybe an actual machinist shop, have these checked for the proper thread pitch. If not, I mean, like I said, go to Steyr, you can order new hardware, but if you heat these up, I would say more than about 3 times, I would replace them. That would be my recommendation. So after that, clean your threads, make sure there's no Loctite, glue, assembly. As you can see, this one's got some. You can put these in a sonic tank, or take a fingernail scrub brush or a little wire brush, brush them clean, get them ready to be reinserted. So, with that being done, there's the top of the receiver, there's your 3 holes, here's your long mount, and your new optic. So when this all goes together, and on the newest generation of the A1 and or A3 A3M1. They used to be here in the front, there used to be a roll pin. So if you happen to have one of the older generations like an ST77, it comes apart the same way, but in the front, there used to be a pin. This will insert and drop in. The original pin was just a lock here in the front. The new ones do not have it. It's not necessary. It was something they just kind of did away with. The 3 bolts or 3 screws that go back in that bolt the optic or your flat top to your receiver is all that's necessary. But if you wish to, for aesthetic purposes, if you just don't like an empty hole, you can put a retention pin in there. It'll just ensure that this mount never comes off. So, to repeat this process, to reassemble all of this, rotate it over. You're going to need to Loctite these or put adhesive to them. I'll be doing this one in the way that I do mine. So what I'm doing will be more Loctite or the clear polish to lock these up. Once you have this re-screwed and assembled, especially with Loctite, give it at least 24 hours before you take this platform back out and go have fun with it. Give it time for the Loctite to set back up. So, y'all see a quick time lapse of me reassembling and putting this one back together, and then I'll put the whole gun back together and I'll show you what it looks like. Now, I will tell you, if you're doing this, you can snug these up. They are about, let's see guys, sorry, drop this here. I know what the torque spec is. It's something that in the armorer class, I'm sorry, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You can look it up or ask, or you can just take the class for yourself to truly find out. But for the most part, there's not a lot of torque specs on these. A lot of the Steyr is still tight. And I have had to actually call Austria and get it translated for a proper wrench. So, I will torque these to where I know they need to be. If you're paying attention to the video, you'll see exactly what I'm doing. I'm sure someone can imply exactly what I just did. Get out your tools. And there's your optics put on. Just in case you guys were wondering, these are the cups that protect the glass, since this is a brand new optic. And I'm just going to leave those on there for the moment. So, we'll put this down, put our tools away. You will not need any more tools. Make sure that you cap off and put away your Loctite so it doesn't dry out, or your glues. And granted, yes, I talk about clear fingernail polish. This is actually a glue that I use. I just keep it in that bottle. So, there's your rail. Set that off to the side. Remember, these are reusable. You can add them to another AUG or keep it around if you want to change back out and put a different optic on. All right. Well, we'll do the final assembly. Fully built, ready to rock and roll. Well, I hope you all really enjoyed the video. I had fun making it. And as always, tune in, check in, see what we're up to, and we'll see what comes next.